Hello everyone, today I'm talking about Gigabyte motherboards and the fact that they have a very weird problem going on that I don't understand, but I just want to bring some awareness to this just in case you guys have a Gigabyte motherboard, which I'm sure a lot of you guys do, especially if you're anywhere near a micro center. For a long time, they had bundles like the 7700X with the Gigabyte XAX V2. By the way, what the hell is that name? First off, Gigabyte, get those names under control. That's an abomination, ridiculous. Anyways, so I just got this score in Time Spy Extreme. Now, it's got this little red mark because I think it's the tessellation mode. Yeah, okay, so tessellation mode was modified, but regardless, I've ran three. Okay, just to explain. So if you go to Gigabyte's website and go to support, their latest BIOSes that they have are F37D, F36. So F36 might be fine, but I highly doubt it because I was on the revisions of F36 for a while until I switched to F37. And for some reason, my GPU performs significantly better on F34. I would have never guessed that this is why. So I set this score right here, 14729. That was my score that I set half a year ago, maybe more than that. And I could never quite get my score that high again. Like, I could not break that score no matter what I did. My GPU overclock was more aggressive. I was able to get higher boost clocks. My memory is overclocked to 2800 megahertz, which is much faster than when I got this. When I got this score, I think my memory was only at like 2650 or something like that. So, yeah. And I flashed the F34 BIOS because I'm like, really, where this all came about was I was trying to get. This is a whole nother thing that Gigabyte BIOSes are broken in, which is all-core overclocking on AMD Ryzen CPUs. So when you try to do an all-core overclock, something goes awry in the board. I don't know. I think it has something to do with voltage. Where either it draws way too much power, way too much voltage. Something is going on there where it could just causes CPU instability. And do I know what that is? No, but I do know that something is weird in that arena. Secondly, an unseen consequence of me flashing this F34 BIOS just to roll back, see if maybe I could. Maybe it's the BIOS to blame, which, by the way, it was having the same behavior. The CPU all-core overclocking on Gigabyte motherboards is totally broken. So if you have just stick with PBO. Just stick with PBO, especially if you're experiencing any weirdness. But yeah, so on the F34 BIOS, for some reason, my graphics score goes up by like 1,000 points, like nearly a full 1,000 points. Once again, do I understand why that is? Absolutely not. You would think that with newer BIOS revisions, they would, figure out ways of increasing performance. But the best, my best guess is that maybe with like microcode updates, because there was like maybe some sort of vulnerabilities, it subsequently hurt performance. But to them, increasing security is more important than more performance. But when an older BIOS is getting me almost 1,000 more points on my GPU score, which, by the way, if my CPU was had an all-core OC and this would have gotten over 7,000, probably 7,100 points. So I would have broken 15,000 on Time Spy Extreme for sure if my CPU was all-core overclocked. This is just PBO. This is just straight PBO. And so when you have an all-core workload on PBO, your cores will normally their boost will drop down to around 4.9 to 5 gigahertz. So obviously, if you have an all-core overclock of 5.4, then you're going to get a much better CPU score because all those cores are locked at 5.4 gigahertz. So yeah, if you're on if you're on a Gigabyte platform, if you have a Gigabyte motherboard, I highly recommend going to F34. And as long as you're not clicking on crazy shady websites or something, or like downloading really unsecure files, then I really don't think that you're gonna have a big problem. So yeah, I guess fix AMD CPU microcode signature verification vulnerability. So, I mean, I'm sure that that's legit. And honestly, I don't know why that would affect GPU performance, because it doesn't seem like my CPU is performing any better. But my GPU score went up by, I think my best score with the F37D BIOS was like 18,100. And that's my absolute best score. That was trying to push clocks up to like 3,300 megahertz. So, yeah. Something is really weird about Gigabyte BIOSes and Gigabyte motherboards. I mean, now, it's been the most reliable board in terms of, like, it hasn't broken. Every other manufacturer that I buy a board, it just seems like they like to break for some reason. So it's definitely been reliable in terms of it's working, But in terms of weirdness when it comes to BIOS and like overclocking AMD, if you're not using PBO, it's just a total clusterfuck. So yeah, I recommend going to F34, maybe even try F33. I have not tried F33. So, but yeah, definitely recommend doing that considering my uplift in GPU score. Like, it's kind of ridiculous. And I really hope Gigabyte gets on this, because why? Why? Like, I don't see why one BIOS would get me a lower GPU score versus another one. I just do not understand that in the slightest. So yeah. Hopefully you guys found this video informative. I hope that I'm able to help some people out there that maybe you were, doing some benchmarks, or like you're not getting the performance that you used to get. This could very well be your case. And by the way, I flashed the BIOS. This is my first Times by Extreme run. My first. Like, it's not like I was running it multiple times. Like, I opened my computer, opened up 3D Mark, ran Times by Extreme, and boom, this was my score. Now, granted, that is on the EVC with, an overclock, but this is like my overclock that I use on this is the same overclock I had on F37D, the same exact one, and I was constantly scoring like 14,300, 14,400, and I could never figure out what in tarnation was keeping me from like getting close to this score that I used to get. So I don't understand why this happens. It's happening, but like I said, hopefully this helps some of you guys. So anyways, I will see y'all in the next video.